You can't have a list about incredible animals and not talk about the horse. This magnificent beast is strong, loyal, and pretty good looking. But how did the relationship between man and horse start? And how did it change the course of human history? Let's find out. But first things first, we need to get the obvious out of the way. Wild horses are awesome. Their ability to run at incredible speeds for long periods of time, coupled with their agility and stamina, makes them one of the most fascinating creatures to behold. But domestic horses are a whole different story. They are gentle giants who will carry us, help us work, and even be our best friends. Now, you might think that dogs were the first animals domesticated by humans, but guess what? You're wrong. It was actually horses. And this happened much earlier than you think. Some people say that it was the dog, but they are wrong. It was the horse. At least 7,000 years before the first dog got domesticated, humans had already been riding horses. Yeah, that's right. We've been riding horses for over 5,000 years. That's almost twice as long as civilization has existed, okay? And don't even get me started on how long we've been eating them. People have been eating horses for at least 3,500 years. The Batai people of Kazakhstan are believed to have domesticated the first wild horses around 3,500 BCE. These horses were small, just like today's ponies, and were probably used for riding and pulling carts. But they weren't just any old horses, they were special. These horses were the ancestors of all domestic horses today. I mean that without these guys, we wouldn't have any of the other horses that we have today. It's no surprise that the Batai people chose to domesticate horses. After all, they lived in a place where there were lots of wild horses to catch. But it wasn't easy. Taming a wild horse is no joke. It takes a lot of skill and courage. These early horse tamers had to wrestle with the animals, break their spirits, and teach them how to pull carts and carry riders. But they did it, and they changed history forever. See, horses gave humans a new way to move around. They were faster than walking, but not as expensive as charioteers. This meant that people could travel longer distances more quickly and easily. They could also carry more stuff with them, which made trade and exploration easier. Horses also helped humans fight better. With a horse, you could ride into battle and shoot arrows or swing a sword while on its back. This made soldiers more powerful and gave them an edge over their enemies. In fact, horses were so important for fighting that many great leaders throughout history have been famous for their use of cavalry. For example, Genghis Khan and his Mongol Empire swept across Asia and Europe in the 13th century using mounted horseman tactics. Alexander the Great conquered much of the known world on the back of his trusty steed, Bucephalus. And Napoleon Bonaparte's heavy cavalry played a key role in his victories during the Napoleonic Wars. Horses also had a big impact on culture and language. Many ancient cultures had gods or heroes who were associated with horses. For example, the Greeks had Poseidon, the god of the sea, who was also associated with horses. And the Romans had Mercury, the messenger of the gods, who was often shown with wings on his feet and a horsewhip in his hand. Horses even inspired some of our most famous myths and legends. For example, the story of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table is set in a world where magic and chivalry reigned supreme. And what's more chivalrous than riding a noble steed into battle? One of the coolest things about horses is how they've been portrayed in art throughout history. From ancient cave paintings to modern sculptures, horses have been depicted as symbols of power, grace, and freedom. Take a look at some of the famous paintings of horse riders like the ones done by George Stubbs or John Singer Sargent, or check out the bronze sculptures of Degas or the marble masterpieces of Antonio Canova. Each artwork captures the unique bond between horse and rider and shows just how much these animals have inspired artists over the years. Another interesting thing about horses is how they've influenced the way we speak. There are so many idioms and expressions in English that include horses, like to hold your horses, or to go on a wild horse ride. Even the names of some places and organizations are related to horses, like the famous Kentucky Derby or the Horse Guards Parade in London. And let's not forget about all the horse-related words that we use every day, like neigh or stable or mane. It's amazing how much influence horses have had on our language. And speaking of influence, horses have also played a huge role in shaping our world. They've helped us explore new lands, fight wars, and trade goods. Without horses, we wouldn't have been able to conquer so much land or build such large empires. And don't think for a second that this hasn't affected how we live today. From the food we eat to the clothes we wear, much of what we consume comes from places that would be hard to reach without horses. Not to mention all the jobs that still rely on horses today, like farming, ranching, and transportation. Now let's talk about the invention of the stirrup, because this is where things get really interesting. The stirrup is a simple device that consists of a U-shaped frame with a footrest that is attached to the saddle of a horse. It may seem like a small thing, but it was actually a game changer in the history of riding. You see, before the stirrup, riders had to use their legs and balance to stay in the saddle. This took a lot of skill and strength, and it was hard to stay on a horse for long periods of time. But once the stirrup was invented around the 5th century BC, riding became much easier. Riders could now use their legs to stay in the saddle and free up their hands to do other things, like hold a weapon or steer a chariot. This made horses even more useful for riding and fighting, and it allowed humans to take full advantage of their power and speed. The truth is that without the stirrup, we would not have been able to develop the kind of cavalry tactics that allowed us to dominate the battlefield. So if you're ever riding a horse, take a moment to appreciate the stirrup and all the ways it has improved our lives. And here's another cool thing about horses. They've been immortalized in stone. I'm talking about the famous bronze horse by the Russian artist, Alexander Ropet. This massive sculpture of a rearing horse with a rider was completed in 1751 and is considered one of the greatest equestrian statues ever made. It's over 16 meters tall and weighs over 800 tons. Imagine the skill and precision it took to create something so grand. It's truly a testament to the power and beauty of horses. So next time you see a horse, take a moment to appreciate all the ways that these amazing animals have changed our world. From the clothes we wear to the battles we've fought, horses have left their mark on everything we do. And who knows what the future holds for these majestic creatures? Maybe someday they'll be back on the front lines, or maybe they'll be flying through the skies with jetpacks. One thing's for sure though, horses will continue to amaze us for generations to come.